Humans walk out. The galaxy instantly trembles. For a long time, humans were just another species in the galaxy. They lived on a few small planets and moons. They kept to themselves. They did not join the big galactic concord that ruled most of the stars. The concord was made up of many old and powerful races. The Varelians with their sharp minds and silver ships, the Qatari with their living armor and deep songs, and others even older. These races had been fighting, trading, and talking for thousands of years. Humans showed up only a few hundred years ago. They seemed strange, quiet, not very advanced. Their ships were slow. Their weapons looked weak. Their cities were small and plain. Most aliens thought humans were harmless, maybe even a little foolish. The humans never argued. They never asked for more than they needed. When invited to conquered meetings, they sent quiet diplomats who listened more than they spoke. When their colonies were attacked by pirates, they rebuilt in silence. When mocked for their simple ways, they smiled and walked away. Over time, the other races forgot about them. Humans became background noise in a loud, busy galaxy. Then one day, everything changed. It started on Earth, the blue-green planet that humans called home. One morning, every city went dark. Lights turned off. Power grids shut down. Trains stopped. Airships landed and never took off again. People simply walked out of their homes, offices, and schools. They left food on tables, toys on floors, doors wide open. No alarms sounded. No broadcasts explained what was happening. The same thing happened on Mars, on Luna, on Proxima b. On every human world at the exact same moment, every single human vanished. At first, no one noticed. The Concord was busy with its own problems. A trade war between the Varelians and the Qatari was heating up. A strange black hole had appeared near the edge of known space. No one cared about a few quiet humans disappearing. But then, the silence grew louder. Scout ships sent to check on human colonies found nothing. No bodies, no signs of battle, no wreckage. Just empty streets, empty ships, empty lives. Even the animals were gone. Pets, farm beasts, birds in the sky. It was as if the entire species had stepped out of reality itself. The Concord Council finally called an emergency meeting. The Varelian delegate, tall and sharp-eyed, called it a mass suicide. The Qatari elder, wrapped in glowing vines, said it was a spiritual retreat. Others whispered about secret weapons or hidden enemies, but no one had answers. Then the strange things began. Near the empty orbit of Earth, deep space sensors picked up ripples in gravity. Not from a planet or a star, but from nothing. Just empty space bending like fabric. On Mars, a lone robotic rover, left behind by humans, suddenly turned on. It rolled to the center of an empty plaza and played a soft melody, a lullaby from old Earth. The signal was weak, but clear. It repeated for 3 days, then stopped. On Proxima b, a mining drone owned by a Varelian company began digging in a place humans had never touched. It dug straight down for 10 kilometers, then stopped. When the Varelians checked, they found a smooth black sphere buried deep in the rock. It hummed at a frequency that made their bones ache. They tried to move it. It vanished. Worse, every species that had ever hurt humans started having nightmares. Not normal dreams, shared visions. A Varelian pirate captain who had once burned a human freighter woke up screaming, seeing endless white halls and hearing a child's voice say, "You took our bread. Now you'll taste silence." A Qatari diplomat who had laughed at human art during a summit found himself standing in a field of dead sunflowers with a woman's voice whispering, "You called us simple. Now you'll learn what silence costs." The nightmares spread. They crossed species, languages, even planets. No one knew how. Back on the conquered capital world of Zenthera, a young human researcher named Derek Langston had been working alone in a quiet archive. He was one of the last humans in the galaxy, or so everyone thought. He had stayed behind to study ancient alien texts. When the Exodus happened, he didn't vanish. He just kept working. Now everyone watched him. Some thought he was a spy. Others thought he was insane. Derek didn't care. He spent his days listening to old human broadcasts, scanning empty frequencies, waiting. Then one night his console beeped. A signal faint, buried under layers of cosmic noise. He cleaned it up. It was a voice. A woman's voice. Singing. It was Lisa Morgan. Derek knew that name. She had been a schoolteacher on Earth. She died 30 years ago in a shuttle accident. At least that's what the record said. But here she was, singing a lullaby his own mother used to hum. The signal came from deep in the Andromeda fringe, far beyond human reach. And it wasn't just sound. Hidden in the song were numbers, coordinates, a countdown. Derek didn't tell anyone. He packed a small bag, took a shuttle, and left Zinthara without permission. He didn't know where he was going. But he knew one thing: humans hadn't run away. They had left on purpose, and they were watching. Meanwhile, across the galaxy, the silence grew heavier. Ships avoided human space. Colonies near old human outposts reported odd feelings, like being watched by something kind but very old. Time seemed to slow down near empty human stations. Clocks ticked wrong. Plants grew faster. Animals became calm. The conquered tried to explain it all with science. Gravity echoes, mass hallucinations, leftover tech glitches. But deep down, even the proudest aliens felt it, a shift in the air. A change in the rules. Humans were gone, but their absence was louder than any war, and the galaxy, for the first time in centuries, felt small. It trembled, not from fear of attack, but from the sudden, awful understanding that they had never really known humanity at all. They had seen the surface. They had missed the depth. Now, with every human world empty and every human voice silent, the truth began to echo through the stars. Something had ended. Something else was about to begin. Weeks passed after the humans vanished. The galaxy tried to return to normal. Trade ships flew their routes. Wars simmered in distant sectors. The conquered held meetings about taxes and borders. But something was wrong. The silence left by humans did not fade. It grew. At first it was small things. A Varelian freighter passing near the empty orbit of Mars picked up a signal. Not a distress call. Not a message. Just a child humming a tune while tapping fingers on a table. The sound lasted 12 seconds. Then gone. The crew played it back. Every time they did, their ship's engines ran smoother. Their food tasted better. They didn't tell anyone. They kept the recording hidden. Then came the drones. Human mining drones had been scattered across the outer systems. Old, rusted machines left behind on asteroids and dead moons. Now they woke up. Not all at once. One here, one there. Each one moved with purpose. They gathered scrap metal. They pulled rocks from belts. They flew toward dead stars and quiet voids. No one knew why. A Qatari patrol followed one such drone near the ruins of a human research outpost. The drone did not fight. It did not run. It simply hovered above a frozen lake and began to spin, slowly at first, then faster. As it spun, ice below cracked open. From the crack rose a tall shape made of light and mist. It looked like a tree. It had no leaves, no roots. But it sang, a low, soft note that made the Qatari soldiers drop to their knees, not in pain, in peace. When they returned to their ship, they found their wounds healed, old scars gone. Their hearts felt lighter. They never spoke of it again. The nightmares kept coming too. Every being who had ever harmed a human, stolen from them, lied to them, laughed at them, now dreamed the same dream. They stood in a long hallway with white walls. No doors, no windows, just soft light and the sound of footsteps far away. A voice would say one sentence, always the same. We walked out so you could hear us coming. Then they would wake up sweating but changed. Some cried for days. Others gave away all their wealth. A few quit their armies and became gardeners. No one understood, but everyone felt it. Derek Langston was still missing. His shuttle had vanished near the Andromeda fringe. The Concorde sent search teams but found nothing. Only empty space and a strange warmth in the vacuum, like standing near a sleeping animal. Back on Zinthara, the capital world, tension rose. The Varelians wanted to declare the human zones forbidden. The Qatari wanted to send priests to cleanse the silence. Others argued humans might return and they might be angry. Fear spread like fog. Then the patterns appeared. Abandoned human freighters, dozens of them, began moving. Not randomly. They gathered in deep space, far from any star. They formed shapes, a circle, a spiral, a flower. The shapes held for hours, then dissolved. Sensors showed no engines firing, no signals sent. The ships just floated as if remembering how to dance. One Concord scientist, a young woman named Maria Ruiz, studied the patterns. She noticed something odd. The shapes matched old Earth constellations, ones humans used to tell stories about. Orion, Cassiopeia, Ursa Major, but twisted slightly. As if seen from another angle. Another time, she tried to tell her superiors. They ignored her. It's just junk, they said. Dead metal drifting. But Maria knew better. She stayed up late watching feeds from the void. One night she saw a freighter blink its running lights in a rhythm. 3 short, 3 long, 3 short. An old human signal, SOS, but not for help. For attention, she recorded it, played it back. The next morning her coffee tasted like her grandmother's, warm, sweet, with just a splash of milk. Her grandmother had been dead for 20 years. Meanwhile, on a quiet moon orbiting Cygnus X1, something stranger happened. A human colony had once lived there, small, quiet, mostly farmers and engineers. Now the moon was empty, or so it seemed. A Qatari scout landed to check for resources. As he walked through the abandoned village, his suit sensors picked up a heartbeat. Not his, not animal, slow, steady, coming from the ground. He dug. 10 meters down he found a box, wooden, smooth, carved with symbols he didn't know. He opened it. Inside was a single seed, brown, dry, lifeless. He picked it up. The moment his glove touched it, his entire body filled with calm. He sat down and cried, not from sadness, from relief, like he had been carrying a heavy stone for years and finally set it down. He took the seed back to his ship, planted it in a pot of recycled soil, watered it with his own tears. Nothing happened for days. Then one morning, a tiny green shoot pushed through the dirt. It glowed faintly, hummed softly, and the air around it smelled like rain on fresh grass. News of the seed spread in whispers. Some called it a miracle, others called it a trick, but no one could explain it. Then came the signal Derek had found, Lisa Morgan's lullaby. It started playing again, not just in one place, everywhere, on broken comms, in old data logs, even in the dreams of those who had never heard it before. The song was simple, gentle, but hidden inside were numbers, dates, places. Maria Ruiz decoded part of it. The numbers pointed to a location near the center of the galaxy, a place with no stars, no planets, just black space. She showed her findings to a trusted friend, a pilot named Paul Hayes. He agreed to take her there. They left in secret. Their ship, small and fast, slipped past Concord patrols. As they neared the coordinates, the engines began to hum in tune with the lullaby. The stars outside seemed to lean closer. Space itself felt softer. When they arrived, there was nothing, just darkness. Then a light appeared, not a ship, not a station. Just a single point of white light, no bigger than a coin. It pulsed once, twice, then vanished. But in that moment, Maria saw something, a flash of memory that wasn't hers. A child running through a field. A man planting a tree. A woman singing to the stars. All human. All peaceful. All gone, she knew then. Humans hadn't died. They hadn't fled. They had stepped into something else. Something the galaxy wasn't ready to see, and they were waiting. Not to fight, not to rule, but to show the rest of the universe what silence could really do. Back on Xanthera, the Conquered argued louder. Some wanted to bomb the empty human worlds. Burn the silence out, they said. Others begged for patience. What if they're testing us? No one listened to Maria. No one believed Paul. But the seed on the Qatari moon kept growing, and the lullaby kept playing, and the galaxy kept trembling, not from fear, but from the slow, quiet pull of something vast and kind moving just beyond sight. Humans were gone, but their echo was just beginning. The Conquered could not ignore the silence any longer. Strange lights appeared near dead human worlds. Ships that flew too close came back changed. Crew members speaking in calm voices, fixing old grudges, sharing food without being asked. Some ships never came back at all. They simply vanished into the quiet like stones dropped into deep water. The leaders of the galaxy held an emergency summit on Xanthera. The Great Hall was filled with beings of every shape and color. Tall Varelians with eyes like polished glass. Qatari elders wrapped in living vines. Small quick Zenth with too many fingers. All of them argued. Some said humans had built a weapon. Others said they had become gods. A few whispered that maybe humans had always been gods, and the rest of the galaxy just hadn't noticed. In the middle of the shouting, the air in the hall grew still. A man appeared on the central dais. No one saw him arrive. No doors opened. No alarms sounded. He just stood there, calm and quiet, wearing simple clothes, dark pants, a soft shirt, boots worn from walking. He carried a small wooden box in his hands. It was Paul Hayes, the pilot who had vanished with Maria Ruiz, the one who had flown into the black space and returned with strange eyes and a quiet smile. Now he stood before the most powerful beings in the galaxy, and he did not look afraid. The Varelian high speaker rose, his voice sharp. "Who gave you leave to enter this chamber?" Paul did not raise his voice. "No one. I walked in. You are human. Your kind abandoned the galaxy." "No," Paul said. We stepped aside. "There's a difference." He opened the box. Inside lay a single seed. Brown, dry, ordinary. But the moment the lid lifted, the air in the hall changed. The harsh lights softened. The angry voices faded. Even the stone walls seemed to breathe. "This is from an earth tree," Paul said. "It's been extinct for 200 years. But it grows in 11 dimensions, not just up and down, not just forward and back. It grows in kindness, in memory, in hope." The Qatari elder leaned forward. "What do you want?" "Nothing," Paul said. "We never wanted anything from you. We only asked to be left alone while we built something you couldn't see." "Built what?" "The lattice." No one had heard that word before. But as Paul spoke it, every being in the room felt a tug inside their chest like a string plucked deep in their bones. Paul explained. For generations, while the galaxy fought over borders and power, humans had been working in secret, not with weapons or engines, but with thought, with care. They had learned to weave space itself, not with metal, but with meaning. They folded reality like cloth, stitching together moments of peace, acts of courage, songs of love. The lattice was not a place. It was a living web of connection, grown from everything good humans had ever done, and now it was ready. "You left because you were weak," the Varelian spat. Paul smiled. "We left because staying would have broken you too soon. You weren't ready to see what we were becoming." Then he did something no one expected. He offered the seed to the Varelian high speaker. The alien hesitated. His people valued logic, control, strength. This seed meant nothing to him. Yet his hand reached out. He took it. The moment his fingers touched the seed, his face changed. His sharp eyes softened. His stiff shoulders dropped. He whispered, "I remember my mother's hands." No one spoke. Paul turned to the crowd. "We're not here to rule, not to punish. The lattice is open to anyone who chooses it. You can stay as you are, or you can grow with us. The choice is yours." Then he vanished, not with a flash or a bang. He simply stepped to the side and was gone. The seed remained in the Varelian's hand. It glowed faintly. Outside the hall, chaos began. Some species demanded war. "They're tricking us," they cried. "It's a trap." Others fell to their knees, weeping, feeling something they hadn't felt in centuries: peace. Maria Ruiz watched from the shadows. She had returned with Paul but stayed hidden. She saw the fear, the hope, the confusion. She knew what came next. That night, the Varelian hegemony launched an attack. Not against Xanthara, against the nearest human ghost station, a silent ring of metal floating near Neptune's old orbit. They sent 50 warships armed with plasma cannons and gravity lances. Their orders were clear: destroy the station. Prove humans were not gods. The fleet arrived at dawn. The station did not fight. It did not shield itself. It just hung there, dark and still. The Varelians fired. Their weapons struck the station and passed through it like light through glass. Then something strange happened. The energy from their cannons bent, twisted, and returned not as destruction but as music. Soft, clear notes filled space. The warship's metal hulls began to bloom. Flowers of light grew along their wings. The crews felt no pain, only joy. One pilot laughed as his hands turned warm and golden. Another sang a song he'd forgotten since childhood. Within minutes, the entire fleet was transformed. Not destroyed, not conquered, changed. Their weapons were gone. In their place were gardens, libraries, playgrounds. The ships drifted gently, no longer war machines but homes. News spread fast. The Qatari sent a scout. They found the Varelian ships floating in a circle, sharing stories over warm drinks made from stardust and memory. The Qatari scout landed, was offered tea, drank it, and wept for the first time in his life. Back on Xanthara, the conquered sat in stunned silence. Paul Hayes had not lied. Humans were not warriors. They were gardeners, and the galaxy was their soil. Maria walked through the capital city that night. Streets once filled with noise were now quiet. Not empty, just calm. A Varelian child played with a Qatari pup. A Zenth merchant gave bread to a stranger without asking for coin. She looked up at the stars. Somewhere out there, Lisa Morgan was still singing. Derek Langston was still searching. And Paul Hayes was walking the edges of reality, planting seeds in the dark. The lattice was growing, and the galaxy, for the first time, was learning how to listen. The galaxy did not change all at once. It changed like morning light, slow, soft, but sure. After the Varelian fleet turned into floating gardens, no one dared attack human space again. Not out of fear, but out of wonder. What kind of power turned war into song? What kind of people built peace like a house, brick by quiet brick? The lattice spread not by force, but by choice. Any being who touched a human seed, heard a human lullaby, or even just stood near an old human place for long enough began to feel it. A gentle pull inside, like a memory they never knew they had. Some resisted. They called it mind control, a trick, but even they could not deny the changes. Old wounds healed without medicine. Broken machines fixed themselves when someone hummed a human tune. Arguments ended not with shouting, but with shared silence. Maria Ruiz stayed on Zenthara. She did not lead. She did not preach. She simply lived. She planted a small garden on her balcony using soil from Earth, brought back by Paul Hayes. Nothing grew at first. Then one morning a green shoot pushed through. It had no name. It glowed faintly at night. Birds that had not sung in years came to sit on her railing. They sang with it. She watched the city change. Markets once loud with haggling became places of quiet trade. People left what they could, took what they needed. No coins, no records, just trust. A Varelian scholar sat beside a Qatari child and taught her old math. The child taught him how to braid vines into light. No one asked why. It just felt right. But not everyone welcomed the change. Deep in the outer rim, a group of warlords gathered. They called themselves the Iron Chain. They had built their power on fear, on pain, on the old ways. They saw the lattice as weakness. Peace is just surrender with pretty words, their leader growled. His name was Garvok, a brute from a dead world, his body half metal, his heart full of fire. He gathered ships, not 50 like the Varelians. 500. He would not attack a station. He would burn Earth itself even if it was empty. He would prove that silence could be shattered. His fleet jumped toward the Sol system. As they neared the orbit of Mars, they saw it. Not a planet, not a weapon, just a single tree floating in space. Its roots curled around nothing. Its branches held no leaves, only soft light. It hummed the same lullaby Lisa Morgan had sung. Garvok ordered fire, his cannons roared. Energy beams tore through space and struck the tree. Instead of exploding, the tree absorbed the blast. Then it grew, faster, taller. Its light spread like water. It touched the nearest warship. The metal softened. The guns melted into bells. The soldiers inside dropped their weapons. They looked at each other, not as enemies, but as brothers who had forgotten each other's names. Garvok screamed. He fired again. And again, each blast made the tree grow more. Soon it filled the sky. Its roots wrapped around his flagship, not to crush, but to hold. A voice came, not loud, not angry. Just calm. You don't have to be hard to be strong. It was Paul Hayes. He stood on a branch of the tree, barefoot, hands in his pockets. Garvok raised a plasma blade. I will not be changed. Paul nodded. Then walk away. The lattice does not force. It only offers. Garvok hesitated. His whole life had been about breaking things. Now, for the first time, he faced something that could not be broken, only joined. He looked at his hands. They were shaking. Not from rage, from tiredness. He dropped the blade. The tree's light wrapped around him, not to erase him, to remember him. All the pain he had carried, all the love he had lost. It held it all and said, you can rest now. Garvok wept. His fleet did not return as conquerors. They returned as healers. They helped rebuild cities they had once burned. They taught children how to fix engines, not break them. Back on Zenthara, Maria watched the stars. She knew the truth now. Humans had not built the lattice to rule. They had built it to remind the galaxy that kindness was not weakness, that silence was not emptiness, that walking away could be the bravest thing of all. One night she received a message. Not on a screen. In her dreams, it was Derek Langston. He stood on a shore of black sand under 2 moons. Behind him, a city of light rose from the sea, not made of stone but of stories. Human stories, alien stories, all woven together. "I found them," he whispered. "They're not gone. They're waiting for the rest of us to catch up." Maria woke with tears on her cheeks. She went to her garden. The glowing plant had grown tall. It bore fruit, small, round, warm to the touch. She picked one, ate it, tasted like home, even though she had never been to Earth. On a quiet moon near Cygnus X1, the seed the Qatari scout had planted now stood as a full-grown tree. Its branches reached into the sky, its roots into the stars. Beings from all over the galaxy came to sit beneath it. They did not speak. They just listened, and in the silence they heard something new. Not fear, not power. Hope. The galaxy trembled still, but not from danger. From the weight of something beautiful waking up inside it, humans had walked out. Now the universe was learning how to walk with them. Years passed. The galaxy was not the same. It was softer now, quieter, not empty, just calm. The old wars were forgotten. The great empires did not fall. They changed. Like rivers finding new paths, they flowed toward something gentler. The Varelians built schools instead of warships. The Qatari sang songs that healed 6 stars. Even the Zenth, once traders of secrets, now shared stories freely like gifts wrapped in starlight. Human enclaves returned. Not as colonies, but as places of peace. They appeared on quiet moons, in the rings of old planets, even floating in deep space like islands of green and light. Their buildings were not made of steel, but of living wood and woven light. Windows opened to gardens that grew in 3 directions at once. Doors led not just to rooms, but to memories. Places where you could sit and remember your grandmother's voice or the first time you saw snow. Paul Hayes and Lisa Morgan walked among these places. They did not call themselves leaders. They called themselves gardeners. They planted seeds that bloomed into bridges between worlds. They sang lullabies that helped newborn stars find their rhythm. They listened more than they spoke. And when they did speak, it was never to command, only to ask, "Do you need help?" Children played in the new gardens. Human children, Varelian children, Qatari younglings with vines in their hair. They did not see differences. They saw friends. They climbed trees that bore fruit in colors no one had names for. They chased fireflies that carried tiny songs from Earth. They built forts from old ship parts and filled them with laughter. Maria Ruiz lived on Zenthara still. Her balcony garden had grown into a small forest. Beings came from across the galaxy just to sit beneath its branches. Some came with pain, some with questions. Most came with nothing but tired hearts. They left lighter, not fixed, just remembered. She often thought about the day humans walked out, how the galaxy had trembled in fear. Now it trembled in awe, not because humans were powerful, but because they had shown what patience could do. They had waited. They had built. They had believed that even the hardest hearts could learn to bloom. Derek Langston returned one spring morning. He landed his small ship not on a pad, but in a field of silver grass. He looked older but peaceful. His eyes held the quiet of deep space. He carried a book, not made of paper, but of light and breath. Inside were stories from every world that had touched the lattice. Human tales, alien myths, songs from stars that had died long ago. He gave the book to Maria. "It's not finished," he said. It never will be, she understood. The story was still being written. By everyone. On Earth, the planet that had once been silent, life returned. Not the old cities. Not the old noise. Just green hills, clear rivers, and soft wind through tall trees. No one lived there alone. Beings came to walk its paths, to feel the ground that had once held the first human footsteps. They left no footprints. They took only peace. The lattice grew, not like a net, but like a root system, hidden, strong, connecting everything. It did not demand belief. It only offered a hand. Some species joined fully. Others stayed on the edges, watching, learning. That was enough. The lattice did not rush. It waited, like a seed waiting for rain. One evening, Paul stood on a cliff overlooking a sea that shimmered with 2 suns. Lisa joined him. They did not speak for a long time. Below, children played near the water, building castles that sang when the waves touched them. "Do you think they understand?" Lisa asked. Paul smiled. "Not all of it. But they feel it. That's how it starts." They had not come back to rule. They had come back to tend, to show that strength could be kind. That silence could speak louder than thunder. That walking out was not an end. but a way to make room for something new to grow. The galaxy had once thought humans were weak because they did not fight. Now it knew the truth. Humans were the strongest because they chose not to. They carried pain but did not pass it on. They held power but did not use it to control. They walked out so the universe could hear its own heartbeat again. And now, with every shared meal, every healed wound, every child's laugh under a strange sky, the galaxy was learning to walk too, not in fear, not in pride, but in step with something older than stars. Something called care. Maria sat in her garden that night. The air smelled like rain and old books. A small bird landed on her shoulder. It hummed a tune she knew, a lullaby from Earth. She closed her eyes and listened. Far away on 1,000 worlds, others listened too. The trembling had not stopped. But it was no longer fear. It was the sound of a universe breathing deeply for the first time in ages. Humans had walked out. Now, they were home. And so was everyone else.